Good afternoon. Welcome to First Presbyterian Church of Arlington Heights. I am Christopher Urban, the Associate Director of Music here at First Pres. And I want to welcome you to our summer concert series. This is a new thing that we're doing, that we're trying, so you have exceeded our expectations. So it's great to see so many of you here today. I apologize for running out of programs. Eddie will announce the program order as we go. I just wanted to call your attention to a few things. We are a completely self-supporting concert series here at First Pres, and if you look at the back page of your program, all of those individuals on that back page are who have contributed to make this concert series possible. If you feel so inclined to donate to the series, as you leave the sanctuary out the back double doors here, there is a box that has a blue tag that says free will offering. So if you have a couple bucks and can drop it in and help us to sustain the music, we would really appreciate it. And then after the concert is over, we also have a reception in the parlor. So as you go out the sanctuary doors, you make a left and you'll find the parlor. That's where you can meet Eddie and greet him and have some Presbyterian punch and cookies. And I would just, encourage you to mark your calendars. In the program, you see the concerts that we have coming up in 2 weeks. We're going to be doing a patriotic concert, piano and organ and voice. We have a pianist from the Peabody Conservatory who is playing in July. And then we have a fellow who's been doing a bassoon camp here at the church is playing our last concert at the end of July. There are little tags, cards in the back in the racks that you can pull a card if you want to stick it on your refrigerator to know those concerts that are coming up. So without further ado, I want to welcome Eddie Zheng to the organ bench here at First Pres. Eddie is currently in a program to get an artist diploma at Juilliard. He has an undergrad and a master's degree, and he's in that program's artist diploma, and he's currently studying with Paul Jacobs. He played last night. He's on a tour of Chicago at First United Church of Oak Park, a similar program, so it's great that he's able to come here for us to do the program today. So, would you please join me in giving Eddie a warm round of applause?
Thank you so much for coming today to this recital. I'm very honored to be presenting this program of a variety of organ repertoire favorites of mine. The piece that I just opened with was Marcel Dupré's Cortège and Litany. Dupré was a French composer for organ and many other instrumentations, and was world-renowned for his virtuosic performances across the world, both in Europe and on American tours. The piece Cortège and Litany begins with a solemn procession, which is the cortège. It's that beautiful melody and harmony that we heard to really bring the audience in, as if it were perhaps the prelude of a service. And then, of course, you heard the bell tolling, which reminds us of the beginning of for example, a Sunday Mass in one of the large cathedrals in Paris, before going into the litany, which is a musical representation of the litany, which is a repeated petition or prayer that's often spoken. And in the litany, Dupré creates a musical motive or gesture that keeps being repeated over and over again and developed before combining the music of the cortège with the litany and bringing it to that climax that you heard. And so now we will move our attention to the next two pieces by J.S. Bach. The first is a prelude and fugue in G major. This piece is very famous among organists because many of us were taught this piece either in our high school or undergraduate years. And I often wonder why, because it's really quite a complicated piece for a young 17 or 18-year-old to tackle. But I think it is also because this piece really represents Bach at his most joyful state, and the counterpoint and harmonic changes that you hear in the prelude and fugue are really wonderful. After that, I will play a trio sonata in E minor, number 4. And the interesting thing about the trio sonatas by Bach are they come from a collection of 6 of these 3-movement pieces that were composed by Bach for his eldest son, Wilhelm Friedemann Bach, who was also studying the organ. And the intention of creating these pieces was to help an organ student master the coordination required to play different melodies and different music from in the left hand, the right hand, and in the feet, in the pedals. And so Bach took what was traditionally a chamber music genre or form, in which we would have 3 or 4 different instrumentalists, such as string players or oboists, etc., playing their own respective lines. But Bach turned this into a solo instrumentation, having the organist play 3 independent lines in the hands and feet. So it's really a coordination exercise, but it creates a simplistic beauty in being able to have one person play what is essentially chamber music. And so you will have a good taste of 2 sides of Bach's organ repertoire. Thank you. So the next two pieces on the program turn to a more softer and sort of elegant side of the organ repertoire. The first piece that I'll play is the Canonic Study number 4 by Robert Schumann. And in about the year 1856, Robert Schumann and his wife Clara Schumann, both one of the giants of the Romantic period for classical music, they turned to a study of J.S. Bach's music for an intensive period of time. And the 6 canonic studies came out of that period of study as they looked at essentially Bach as the contrapuntal master and looked to reinvent the ways that he treated different contrapuntal textures. So as the title suggests, the canonic studies all feature canonic melodies or canons. And the easiest way to explain what a canon is to reference the most famous one here, which is Row, Row, Row Your Boat. It's taught to children as a way to really get them to, I guess, hear the melody as in many different contexts. Essentially, a canon is a melody that's written so that it can work with itself at a staggered time. So you can start to sing or play the melody, and then somebody else can sing the same melody a little bit later, and it'll work, and it'll sound beautiful together. And if you think about, there are essentially rules in writing music to dictate what sounds good or not. And these rules can be rather complicated for composers and musicians. And so to craft a melody in which the head can also work with the tail at the same time and still be beautiful, it's really a puzzle to figure out. And it also creates this very beautiful effect that we'll hear in the Schumann. After that, I'll play a piece by Ralph Vaughan Williams, who is a famous English composer. This is his chorale prelude on Rosamundry, which is a Welsh hymn tune. And this piece was made famous because it was a favorite of Princess Diana in England, and I believe was played at her funeral. And so it really retains this sort of melancholy feel, despite it being a very lovely piece. And it's really emblematic of the English ethos, I think. So I like to play this piece. And after that, I'll be back for the last 2 pieces. So thank you. So the final two pieces on the program are going back to French organ music. The first piece is probably the most unique out of this program in terms of the sound world, and it's also the most recently composed. It's from the 1990s, and it's by French composer Thierry Esquèche. This is two selections from his 5 versets on the Victime Pascali, which is a Gregorian chant tune that is typically heard on Easter Sunday. And so the text of that tune relates to the journey of Lent into Easter, and that part of the church calendar. And Esquèche is a composer who, most notably recently, was just appointed one of the new organists at Notre Dame in Paris, which is arguably one of, or the most prestigious post an organist could hope for, and it's in due part because of his compositional achievements. I think his music can be best described as using a very, as breaking the boundaries of the traditional rhythmic sort of hierarchy that we are expecting to hear from Western music, and adding a lot of rhythms and values here and there, and also combining that rhythmic instability with the use of different modes and scales and harmonies that are a little bit more advanced than, or that have developed past what we're used to hearing. And that's very emblematic of the French compositional style. And so this piece treats this Gregorian tune, which you will hear in the beginning of both of the versets, in very aggressive and sort of kind of violent ways. But I don't want to scare you off. I think it's a very interesting piece. And then we will finish the program with a famous French toccata, essentially, which is by Alexander Guilmant, who was a contemporary, or who lived at the same time as Charles Marie Widor. And many of us know Widor's famous toccata, and this piece is also well known within the organ world. The French toccata is essentially known for its fast and repetitive figuration, and of course very bombastic quality that helps to usher people out of the church at the end of the service, for example. And so I think it's a wonderful piece to end the program with, and I thank you all so much for coming today to hear me play, and also to Chris for having me here at First Presbyterian. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you.
Thank you all so much for coming. I remind you the concerts that are coming through, I'm the voice of God coming down. As you leave the sanctuary, just remind you again, there's an offering box there if you have an opportunity to drop a few dollars. And then as you turn left, I invite you to the parlor for some punch and cookies, and you can meet and greet Eddie.